This episode of the Old Dogs REI Network is brought to you by Mino Studio.
In a world where jobs are how most people make money, one man, one desire, one challenge dares to break the mold. Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where we don't work for money. Money works for us. Coming soon. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network, where cash flow is king. Real estate investing, the means, so you can enjoy your retirement dreams. This is the show where we cut right to the chase. No sales pitch, no long monologues, just simple how-to real estate investing advice, so you can earn the passive income you need to enjoy your retirement today. And now, your host and chief old dog, Bill Manacero.
Welcome to the Old Dogs REI Network. I'm your host, Bill Manacero, and this is a show where 50-plussers and anyone else who wants to join us get solid, no sales pitch real estate investing advice to help generate real cash flow. This podcast airs twice weekly on Mondays and Fridays, and if you aren't already a subscriber, go to iTunes or Apple Podcast, type in Old Dog, spelled D-A-W-G-S, find our podcast and subscribe. Well, we got a great show for you today. Real excited about. I actually found out about this gentleman through a good friend of our family who invests in his backyard or his neighborhood or in his city. And it's an area I've looked at a number of times, and that's Dayton, Ohio. And I'm talking about Ryan Ingram. And Ryan's got a great background. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. Hopefully he'll get into some more details here. But Ryan actually started off as a police officer in North Carolina for around 5 to 6 years. And he loved every second of it. And then he got married, and it sounds like, as we all, when we get married, our wives obviously have a factor in what we do and how we do it, right? And he decided that was not the best area to stay in. And so he had his first kid in January of 2017. And he started looking at other options in terms of what he would do as a profession. Started reading books, upwards of one per day, to try to figure out how he could make the money he needed to provide the lifestyle his family desired. And so today he owns an insurance company and about 80 rental properties. So I am real interested in hearing this story, but I'd like to welcome Ryan to the Old Dogs REI Network.
Well, I appreciate it. Quite excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you. This is great. You got a good story to tell. So I'm just going to sit back right now and let you tell that story.
Absolutely. So I kind of accidentally got into law enforcement. My undergraduate degree was from Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. And when I signed up to go there, I also signed a sheet of paper that said that I wouldn't drink. And I turned 21 and just, had a few drinks. And that got me into a little bit of trouble. They were looking to expel me. So I wanted to stay out of sight, out of mind. So I went and sat down with the dean of students, and we looked at the community college's curriculum, and we realized that the police academy would be enough elective credits for me to finish out my degree, because my degree was super specific in biblical languages. And unfortunately, no other university offered that. So I would probably start over with a different major had I actually gone through that. So that's how I ended up in law enforcement. So I was right at 21 when I got in. And let me tell you, truly, I had the time of my life. It was tons of fun. But then I met my wife. We got married. And all of a sudden, my view on night shift really took a drastic turn. I would much rather be, at home snuggled up with my wife rather than chasing some criminals around. So at that point, I just started kind of feeling stuck or trapped inside of that career. And then we had our first kid, and I really married up. Bill, my wife, is a super high performing individual. She was an assistant principal, and we really wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom. That was very important to us. So honestly, I just kind of felt like my man card was on the table because I couldn't really provide for my family the way that we wanted to. And this just really confused me because I'd always considered myself to be a high performing individual. I was on the professional racquetball tour for just a few seconds in high school, and I broke some American bench press records. So I always felt confident to set out whatever I could. I always felt confident in my ability to accomplish whatever it was that I set out to. So when this came along, it's a giant life problem that I couldn't really figure out how to navigate. So I started reading one book per day. At that time, I honestly stopped doing everything even remotely related to law enforcement. And in North Carolina, presumably everywhere, really, but there are these places on the side of the road that sell sheds and whatnot. And I would always just pull my police car right in between those those sheds and read a book or two while I was working. So I figured, and I kind of made the commitment to myself that I would read a book per day until I could figure out how to fix this problem that we were in, because all of a sudden now I needed to just drastically increase our family's income. And fortunately, I got a hold of some good books early on when I was 18 or 19. One of them was The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. So when I got into law enforcement, I was in college at the time, so my cost of living was incredibly low. So I just started saving 50% of my income automatically into my retirement. So each time I got a raise, the first paycheck that I got, I would, take it, buy something fun for myself, and then figure out the difference and start putting that towards my 401k as well. So we had a decent amount of money to start with, but we built a house that was on about 17 acres, and we just needed both incomes. So that is when, I started reading all of these books. And the first issue that I realized I had was the only way that I was making money was by trading my time for it. So I realized that was the first thing that we had to break. Read tons of financial stock books and had this plan of accumulating a certain amount of dividend stocks and replacing my salary with that. But, as I'm sure you're already familiar, it takes a great amount of capital, which is hard to accumulate if you're making, 35, 45 grand a year, as I was in law enforcement. So one night when I was on patrol, I met a gentleman. Somebody was trying to break into his car at his house. So that's when him and I met. And he was the owner of a local paint company. They did high-end interior and exterior painting. And he also owned a bunch of real estate. So at that time, we became friends. And ultimately, he was nice enough to take me around to his portfolio of properties and share with me, how much he purchased them for, how much they're rented out for, his monthly expenses, and really just explain to me the benefits of real estate investing, which, kind of shattered my world, because if what he was saying was true, then my dividend stock plan was a bad one. So I started reading a bunch on real estate investing. And at the same time, I also made the decision to try to fix the time for money issue. So I took a commission-only job in sales, selling life insurance. And we started trying to figure out which territories were open in the nation. And my wife's one request was that, we lived somewhere that she was familiar with. So she actually went to college here in Dayton. And for the first few months, she was still, an assistant principal. So I left law enforcement in April of 17. She didn't want to leave in the middle of the year, so she wanted to finish it out. So between April and August, I commuted between North Carolina and Ohio to kind of sell this job. And one thing that I just want to touch on really quickly is, my wife and I sat down and did all the math. And since we had, for the most part, been so frugal for so long, we had about $45,000 or $50,000 in just our savings account at this time. So we figured worst case scenario, she could finish out the school year. If I do this and I fail horribly, then at least I have an awesome resume in law enforcement, and I'd be able to go back to that because there's no shortage of those guys, right? So that was our loose plan. So during this time when I was commuting, I had tons of windshield time to listen to podcasts, audiobooks, and whatnot. And then when I first started, I was a cop in Durham, North Carolina. In the bad part of Durham, you could buy just about any home you wanted to for about $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And
Wow.
when I was leaving law enforcement, you couldn't even buy one of those condemned homes for less than $100,000. So I was able to see that market shift and kind of experience it. And since I was in law enforcement, I knew the level of crime or like the way that area, kind of the people, just the way the people lived in that community. And it honestly wasn't too horrible. But when I got up here to the Dayton, Ohio area, I saw the same price tags on these homes. And I think at one point, like 30% of Dayton's housing stock was vacant. And just from my law enforcement experience, the crime rate here was a lot lower than what I was used to. So I just immediately felt like it was a really safe investment. So between all the audiobooks, the mentor that I found in North Carolina, I really just realized that I had to take action as quickly as possible. So I got plugged into some local networking groups here and ultimately ended up purchasing my first duplex in August of 2017. And since then, my brother came on board with me probably around like the fourth or fifth property, I believe. Just when things really started clicking for me, I realized how safe of an investment this was in this particular area, and just the confidence. So he came on board, and now we just put 3 properties under contract this past weekend. And once we close on those in the next week and a half or so, we will have 80 doors, which was the goal that we set for ourselves in January.
Wow, that's awesome, and are they? That's really amazing. I mean, that's really amazing, and selling insurance too in the middle of all that too, right?
Yes. So we kind of did the opposite. When we moved up here, we bought a house in a phenomenal neighborhood for $70,000. Now it was like a 700 square foot house, but nonetheless, our mortgage payment was somewhere between $400 and $500 a month, and this life insurance, that's another, fun thing that I kind of wanted to hit on is selling life insurance is a lot like flipping a house. You get paid once and then probably never again. So even though I was making more money, I had months where I made $10,000 and $20,000, and to live in that small of a house, we were able to save a lot of money. We did a bunch of work, and we really tried to limit our monthly expenses to less than $2,000 a month. And we did that for about 2 years. But nonetheless, when I was selling the life insurance, when I was, going to sleep at night, I always had this pit in my stomach, knowing that in order to continue making money at that rate, I would have to get up and work just as hard the next day as I did the previous day. And if my hand weren't on the wheel actively turning, then, it's kind of just me kind of being on a hamster wheel. So I didn't like that at all. And about the same time that we bought the first property, I realized that at least here in the area of the people that I called after I purchased the property, I couldn't find an insurance agent that was familiar with insuring rental properties. So This duplex, we purchased it for $35,000, and all of the insurance companies wanted to insure it for about $307,000, and that just didn't feel right. And it seemed like it was a lot more expensive than what it should be proportionately. So I learned just kind of how the commission works on the property and casualty side. You get paid a lot less, but nonetheless, you get paid each policy period. So you make the same amount of money year over year, so long as you keep your clients happy. So if you build a book of business on property and casualty, then you can kind of know that you know how much income you're going to make year over year. So I was a lot more comfortable with that setup rather than just the constant churn and burn of the life insurance pace.
Oh, that's great. And are you allowed to insure your own properties?
Sure enough. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's
Actually,
great.
I think it's, yep.
That's great. Well, I got a lot of questions here.
Yeah, go for it.
If you don't mind me kind of interrupting you, but you looked at Dayton as a place that really seemed to be underinsured. Is that kind of what what initially drew you to that area because you thought there was a good opportunity to sell life insurance?
Oh, no, sir. No,
okay.
It was the company that I went on for, the company that I signed on with. They had different territories that were open throughout the country.
Okay.
And my wife, she was on board with us, uprooting and moving somewhere. But her one request was that we go somewhere that she was familiar with, that she knew a few people. So that, limited it to, I think, a place in Texas or so, and then a place in Ohio. And we chose Dayton, Ohio, because that territory was open. But then when I got here, that's when I realized that the property market was very reminiscent of 2009 and 10 of Durham.
Got it. Okay. So moving to a brand new area for you. I mean, your wife was familiar because she had went to school there, right? But basically it's a new market. And how do you go about determining, where the good areas are, where the not so good areas are, which ones are, seem to be going up in value, which ones seem like maybe they're not, going up in value, maybe even depressed.
Right.
How did you kind of go about that aspect? Did you do a lot of sort of market research before you bought that first property?
Sort of. So I definitely, did the whole Bigger Pockets events thing that they had, and I got plugged in with a few real estate investors here. But also, since I was, fresh off being a patrol officer, then, all the laws are different and whatnot, but you can still kind of gauge areas and communities. So I really just relied heavily on that kind of gut feeling that you learn to have after a little bit of law enforcement. I don't know how much that's politically correct to say, but
well, no, yeah, you definitely.
You're right.
I'm sure there's a lot of a lot of science, that things that you're familiar with. That, but so you started by you bought a duplex. Now you went up to 80 rental units. Now are those? Did you start buying multis in there, or are they mostly smaller duplex, triplex, quad?
So we have 2 4 units, 1 triplex, and a handful of duplexes. Other than that, the majority of them are single family homes. For better or worse, I feel a lot more comfortable in single family homes, and foolishly enough, I think my main reason is that it's a lot easier to subrogate the utility expenses on a single family home than it is on multis.
Gotcha. Did you buy all in the same area? Were you going to multiple areas?
Yep. We're heavily concentrated in one quadrant of one zip code. So I've definitely found a sweet spot that I'm really confident in, that I just, for a bunch of arbitrary reasons, probably, I feel like it has a high propensity towards appreciating and continuing to grow along with the way that the city is planning and putting their money into the community. Funny enough, the duplex that I purchased is nowhere close to an area that I'm comfortable in anymore. But one of the reasons that we decided on that is when my wife was in college here, she lived about 4 or 5 doors down from that duplex. So she was also very familiar with that area. But the more we looked for opportunities and really started understanding the market, we definitely found that there were better opportunities in another part of town.
Now, you started buying in what years? 2017, you said?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And have you seen appreciation in any of the properties you've purchased so far?
Yes. So at the beginning of the year, we did a cash out refinance of that duplex that we purchased. At the time, we purchased it for about $35,000 in cash. And at the start of this year, we refinanced $50,000 out. So it appraised for right around the $70,000 range.
Wow. Well, that's pretty good appreciation.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. That's great. Now, are they all financed? You have mortgages on all the properties?
Yes. We have a few free and clear, but probably not for long. One of the people that I met when I was getting involved or trying to really reach out to the real estate investing community is now someone I really look up to. But I found this mentor of mine, and he's got about somewhere between 600 and 800 homes here in the area. And he, really wasn't bashful about taking me under his wing, showing me how, he put together his deals and how he operated. And he really just allowed me the ability to kind of emulate exactly what it is that he was doing. So the way our business model is really structured is, and we really geared this up earlier this year. We started the year with 38 properties. We're about to be at 80. And we find distressed properties or properties that are just, for whatever reason, grossly under market value. And we will borrow money from friends and family at 10 and 12%. Those will generally be on interest-only terms for about 3 to 5 years. And then there'll be a balloon where the full amount is due. And at that time, we generally package a bunch of properties together. Like right now, we're in the middle of doing a refinance of 34 properties. And we're refinancing that with a traditional lender where we will then pay back our private investors.
Wow. Well, the first question that comes to mind on this, a lot of questions here. Okay. But one is that because these are 4 properties, four doors and less, they're still considered residential. And I know most lenders, put a limit on the number of properties that you can finance. Now, did you encounter that in this process? Because I think it's like a 10 property limit on one person to for mortgages. Did you encounter any of that, or did it not seem to matter?
I would say yes to both of those. So the 10 limit only applies if they are federally backed loans. So if you're dealing with Fannie or Freddie at all, if you're looking to get the 30-year really low interest rates, that kind of loan on the property, you're limited to 10. But if you go over to the commercial side, or if there's a small local credit union that does portfolio loans and they're willing to, have a single family home inside their portfolio, then that limit kind of disappears. So I personally, I think I have about 2 of those Fannie Freddie loans, and I think my brother has a handful as well. But by and large, the way that we refinance the properties is with a commercial, one of these small local credit unions. Everybody in the credit union is a vice president. So we generally deal with the vice president of commercial lending, and it's generally 20 to 25 year amortization periods between 4.5% and 6.5% with either 5 or 10 year arms.
Wow. And you're making, ample cash flow with that kind of spread there?
Yes. So there's generally a large equity swing when we first purchase the property. So now the market is picking up a little bit. So, the duplex, for instance, we purchase it for 35. We generally do 100% of the financing Now we bought that one in cash, but we will borrow 35,000 plus whatever repairs it needs, and that will be, let's say 12% interest only. So that payment would be 350 in that duplex example because it didn't need any repairs at the time we purchased it, and that duplex is rented out for $1,000 per month. So after the interest payment of 350, there's still $650 there to take care of the insurance and water and taxes.
Gotcha. So you're lumping them together to get the commercial loan. Are you saying, hey, I want to finance 20 houses or 30 houses, and then they basically say that's like a commercial loan? It's like, because it's like multi-family, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the biggest issue that we've run into so far is when we were first purchasing properties, we definitely purchased them very cheaply. And a lot of the banks that are interested in doing this will have minimums. If they're a bank outside of the Midwest, generally they will have $125,000 per property minimums. So we've run into issues like that on multiple occasions. But the banks that are in the Midwest that do a lot of business here either don't have minimums or have like a $25,000 or $50,000 minimum, which is a lot easier to get around than 125.
Right. Were you rehabbing a lot of these houses?
So one of the first things that we were able to do is the city actually had a program called Lot Links, where if the property was vacant for 2 years, if the utilities were off, and they were at least 2 years delinquent in taxes, then you could put an application down with the city. They would do a board of revisions foreclosure. They would wipe away any liens and back taxes, and you would reimburse them for the foreclosure fees, and then they would deed you the property free and clear. So some of these properties needed very little rehab, and some of these, in hindsight, probably should have been torn down. So I think we acquired about 5 or 6 properties via that program, and all of those were very heavy rehabs. And we've also had the opportunity to pick up multiple properties at like $15,000 and $15,000 or less, and those properties generally need about $25,000 to $30,000 worth of rehab at those. So earlier this year, I believe we had about 12 rehab projects going on at once, which was a little bit much for us. So now we're going to do our best to keep under 10 open rehab projects at once, because it feels a lot easier.
Yeah, that's got to be a lot to manage.
Right.
Wow. And do you self-manage all your properties?
Originally, we did not. We followed a lot of what the real estate investor passive income podcasts say, and we hired it out. And we actually just took property management in-house about 2 months ago now, just because it started to make sense with the amount of crews that we were already managing and the amount of contractors that we were friendly with. We were sending them over to do any sort of maintenance issues that happened on our properties. So it was kind of like the property management was really just like a liaison between the tenant and myself, and then I would deploy the contractors and whatnot. So we really just decided to go ahead and eliminate that one extra phone call and bring things in-house.
Great.
Which we were able to recapture 8% across our portfolio of the gross rents.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Right.
And plus you have, people that are more accountable to you, if you have the guys doing the repairs and the fixes and unclogging toilets and so forth, when you have control of that, you can respond quicker. There's a lot of things that property management, it's a little tougher, getting the response time and just, not marking up things ridiculously,
right.
Every time you need a fix. Right. So, well, you just got a fascinating story here. And, I'm wondering, what, as you kind of look back in retrospect since your first property, what would you say is sort of your biggest mistake that occurred that you really learned from in this process?
So I was very fortunate to be pretty readily accepted into like the real estate investing circle up here. There are, 3 or 4 guys on that I call on regularly that have, decades of experience and hundreds of units. So they've definitely allowed me to circumvent a lot of the mistakes that I was about to make. But since I had the ability to call them and ask them about it, they really, really saved me. The biggest mistake that I've made so far in my other businesses and also in just the real estate investing was just not being cautious enough of who we locked arms with, partnered with, albeit a contract. So we are still owed about $30,000 worth of work on one property that the contractors failed to perform. So that was a tough, painful learning experience, but fortunately that was one of the Lot Links properties. So since we were only out of pocket about $2,500 in the foreclosure fees and the market appreciated, fortunately we were able to kind of absorb that loss in the refinance of the property. But nonetheless, I would say that's the most painful thing now. So I really do my best. I mean, it's a constant learning process, of course, but I really do my best to figure out if an individual is a good fit for what we're doing, if they're, trustworthy, reliable, and all of that prior to partnering with them.
How do you vet your contractors generally?
I would say word of mouth and referrals. It's definitely a small community here in Dayton. And then also, I would say a lot of it is delegating smaller tasks to them and seeing how timely it's done. And then, the quality of how it was done. And then, let's say a maintenance issue in one of our occupied properties, they go out and fix it and the problem happens again. How do they respond to that? And generally, as that rapport builds, then I get more and more comfortable giving them larger tasks. Now, that's a time-consuming way to do it, for sure. So I would be in a very vulnerable position if one of my 3 reliable contractors were to leave and I had to replace their workload immediately. But hopefully that doesn't happen.
Right. And what would you say was something that you did that was one of your biggest successes?
I would say just eagerly seeking wisdom, experience, and knowledge from, others, and not really relying on kind of how I think something should happen or, the way I would like for it to work out, but really lean in to the mentors that have made themselves available to me. And, I got plugged into a mastermind group that has been extraordinarily beneficial. It's not real estate investing related. It's just overall business related. So I would say what I think that's probably what I think I do differently than most others. I think a lot of the other guys that are getting involved in real estate investing, that I see it not work out too well for them. They just really try to shoulder everything themselves and learn the hard way on things that they don't necessarily have to if they were to just ask others that have already been there.
That's great. Well, our audience are folks that are 50 years of age and older that are looking at real estate investing as a means to either supplement their current income, either retired or as they're approaching retirement, or, just to take their nest egg and to grow it as opposed to just deplete it, during their retirement years. And so looking at a number of different things. Some want to be more passive, some want to be more active. What kind of advice would you give to folks in that area that, just from your own experience, what might be a good plan for them to get involved in real estate investing?
I would definitely say that you all have the resources to accomplish that, for sure. I think one of the things that immediately comes to my mind is, the whole quote, like youth is wasted on the young. I listened to a few other of your podcasts, and I heard one guy suggest that find somebody younger that has a lot more gas in the tank or whatnot. And That may be true, but at the same time, I think you either have the energy or the resources. And I think, if you're 50 or older, closer to retirement, then you've got a lot more, relationship capital and just a seemingly endless amount of resources and network that you can really lean into to fully leverage your real estate investing, really as much as you want to. So I would say be creative, try to approach things from, a lot of different angles, especially, my brother and I find a lot of joy in providing people 10 and 12% returns, and we wouldn't possibly be able to deploy all of the capital that's out there. So I think using friends and families and their self-directed IRAs, or just money that they have sitting around that's not actually working for them, I think putting that to use and being able to pay them similar returns is a really good feeling that you should probably look into.
Oh, that's great. It seems like you're still relatively new in this game. You're fairly young. Yeah,
yep.
Really. No, but it's amazing what you've done in that short period of time. What's sort of your end game for this? Now, I guess before I ask you that question, I do want to say, now you are full-time real estate, and you've got insurance and real estate, right? That you're drawing income from.
Yes, the insurance agency pays for all of my monthly expenses, which allows my brother and I to reinvest all of, the cash flow from the real estate investing into more real estate. So,
God, that's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is your end game? I mean, you must be looking ahead, saying, what are we going to do here? Are we? Do you have a goal in mind, or something that really excites you about the future? Or what are you looking at doing?
For sure. So when my brother and I first, kind of joined forces, we did so because just in talking, my brother and I are really close. He's my older brother, and we talk multiple times per day, even more now since we're business partners. But we were just talking one day, and we realized that we would have about 5 kids in college all at the same time. And we were just blown away at the thought of how in the world are we going to pay for that? So that is what our initial goal is to generate enough cash flow in order to pay for all of that. So we just passed the $50,000 gross rent per month mark. And, if we've got about 14 years left before our oldest kid, so my brother's son, is college age. So we've got a lot of momentum there. So if we were just to kind of hold what we have, then we would probably be good, which is a great feeling. So here lately, we've kind of shifted our focus to the type of impact that we could have on the community. As we were working with that city program, Lot Links, and we were getting these vacant, abandoned homes that have been eyesores for sometimes decades, and fixing those up, putting new life in them. It was just a phenomenal feeling. So we're really going to start focusing on, yes, we've got these residential homes, but how can we improve the experience of living in this community? What are the things that are currently absent from this area that we could dramatically increase the quality of life if we were to now focus on that? Which, in turn, Bill, who knows, it might appreciate the value of the homes as well.
That's awesome. I mean, you think about it, with the 80 doors, that's a big chunk of community you've got there. And
right.
And if you said they're all in the kind of the similar zip code or area, you really can impact a community in a positive way. And that's one of the exciting things about real estate, I think, is that you can literally transform communities. You have that ability just because you own a big chunk of the community. So that's neat. That's very noble, and I think that's something that will probably have other benefits to it, in the long run.
Right.
But ultimately, just helping people, live in a nice community makes a big difference. So that's cool.
Absolutely.
Really cool. Well, we're getting close to our end here. We have a segment we call Wrap It Up, where I ask you a series of quick questions and you share resources that have been of value to you so that our listening audience can pick up some tips here. If you are ready, we can go ahead and wrap it up.
Absolutely.
All right. Favorite real estate book?
I would say Building Wealth, One House at a Time by, I think it's John Schwab.
Schwab. Yeah, right. That's a great book. All right. How about just favorite general business book?
I would say The Magic of Thinking Big. It's probably right up there with How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Awesome. Great. How about most valuable website for success? For again, speaking about real estate.
I think YouTube is probably the best website to go to. You could find experts that are freely sharing their opinion on just about any topic. But you've also got the people that don't really know what they're talking about either.
Right. But no, YouTube is amazing. It is. I mean, you could find, just the craziest things there that, they can do. You can fix things yourself. You can do a lot of things. But it's a great resource and a lot of expertise, real estate expertise there. Excellent. How about a favorite app on your phone that you might use?
Well, since we just took over property management, I have fallen in love with Appfolio. So they have an app that's pretty user-friendly, and I found that here lately, each time my thumbs go idle, that's the app that I open up.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Appfolio. It has F-O-L-I-O?
Appfolio.
Okay, 2 P's. Got it. All right, good. How about a favorite quote?
I think it's probably a little bit of an adaptation of one of Bill Gates' quotes. But if you weren't born into wealth, it isn't your fault. If you live without creating it, you have no one to blame. That one resonates really well with me.
Wow, yeah, kind of hard hitting too. That's good. That's good. Okay, let's take this one here. If you had to, let's say you lost absolutely everything and you had to start over. Knowing what you know, and of course all you have is $1,000 in cash. What would you do with that $1,000 to launch your real estate investing business?
I think when I got started, I accidentally did a few things right, and with the insurance agency, we kind of exclusively insure other real estate investors. So I would say I would use the $1,000 to either get an education or some sort of licensing in a industry that supports the real estate investing industry. That way I could add value. And then I would seek out people that have already built what it is that I'm looking to do and try to add value with whatever industry that I find that can support the industry.
Oh, that's great. Great idea. Yeah, I bet once you started selling, rental property insurance, I would imagine a lot of your local REI contacts were probably like all over you, trying to get good rates and stuff on their properties, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it worked well. And I think I think real estate investors are definitely a client base that's underserved currently by the insurance agency. To no one's fault. It's a very nuanced industry. And
Right.
I completely agree. I mean, at this point, I think I've purchased about 17 properties from clients that, everybody has just these problem properties that they want to clean their hands of at some point. And I found that being where I am on the insurance side, I'm notified of that pretty quickly. So it's allowed me to get some pretty cool off-market deals.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, that's great. Man, I didn't think about that aspect. That's great. Now, can you insure only folks in Ohio, or can you cross state lines on that?
I am currently, off the top of my head, I know that I'm in like Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana, but insurance is so hard to do in multiple states since it's all regulated by each state's Department of Insurance. So it's really difficult to be an expert in all things. So at one point, I was trying to be like a nationwide agency, but I've really kind of throttled it back to just the Midwest.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of folks listening here that were inspired by your story. Some great stuff there, and congratulations. You've really just been cooking here. How can people reach you or find out more about you and what you do?
For sure. So actually, in the start of this pandemic, when I could no longer meet with my clients face to face, I still had this communication void to fill, right? So I actually started the YouTube channel, which has been tons of fun. So in there, I'm not trying to make any money or sell anything. I'm just, going over all of the things that I found to be super helpful. And, I actually go through all of the numbers on the deals that we've done. And it's a project of mine to go through, all the properties that we've purchased and kind of explain those deals, how we found them, how we structured them. Just because I think it could probably be pretty helpful to someone that's looking to get into real estate investing.
Oh, that's great. So how would they look that up on YouTube?
The direct link is YouTube/C/Ryan Ingram. But you could also just go to the search bar and type in Ryan Ingram.
Gotcha.
We'll do all the same.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. Well, this has been a really great show. I'm totally stoked here. I think there's just a lot of good information, and boy, I just appreciate your coming on and just telling us the insider story here, how you acquired 80 units in how many years? It was a pretty quick period of time there.
Just last month we hit our 3-year mark. So
wow, that's impressive. That's really impressive.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, it's also nerve-wracking because we are very new to this industry. So, but it's tons of fun. I'm having the time of my life doing it.
That's so great. So great.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we have this tradition here on our show, and you probably already know about it, right? Actually, I know you did because you emailed me. You said you're actually working on your closing howl, and so I'm looking forward to hearing that, Ryan, and I'm sure all of our audience is as well.
Oh yeah. I've been practicing, and I was honestly really nervous about this until I YouTubed. What do hound dogs sound like? And they sound kind of broken. So I've listened to about 30 minutes of them just wailing the sirens. So here we go. How was that?
Oh, that was good. You could do voiceover work for Disney, if they do 101 Dalmatians 3 or something, Oh, that was great. That was great. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah,
Ryan.
I sure do appreciate it.
The pleasure was all ours. And I want to thank all our old dog listeners out there, too, for joining us. I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing right now, but the fact that you've taken the time to join us means a lot, and we really appreciate it. Please note everything that Ryan talked about today can be accessed in detail in our show notes on the Old Dogs website at olddogsreinetwork.com/blog. And you're going to look for the episode with Ryan Ingram. Well, that's the show for today. Remember, cash flow is king and real estate investing the means. Until next time, keep moving forward and may God bless.
Thank you very much for visiting the Old Dogs REI Network. We would greatly appreciate if you would stop by iTunes and let us know what you think of the show. We would love if you could subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and write a review. The more ratings and reviews we receive, the more visible the podcast will be to others. Thank you.